Welcome back to Planet Raconteur. My name is Yuck Nasty, and I am your guide through our world where we who tell stories rule this planet. I wanted to start off episode 5 of our podcast by thanking you for listening and for subscribing to our YouTube channel. And to every author that has emailed or followed us on Twitter, we can't wait to work with you. Our first story tonight is not only about the end of the world, but about the end of a life. Is it real? You can be the judge. This is Scrap by author Evan Kennedy.
It was evening when the last ship left. I was in the alley behind Ferguson's when it passed over. It made this kind of thrumming bass you feel deep in your chest, and it was spitting out this huge trail of fire, so bright you can't look straight at it. And for just a second, it lit the place up real bright, brighter than I'd ever seen, even at 1200 hours when all the overlights cut out. I could always tell when the grav pulse kicked in, because it used to shake the whole city. It reminded me of Ned. He loved to watch the ships, loved the boom and the rumble. Whether it was the first time or the 50th, he'd always stop and stare at the sky and just smile and say, "It's the sun, Quentin, it's the sun." Yeah, stupid, but lovable, you know. You don't stop loving your kid brother, no matter how dumb they are.
Good evening. The current time is 22:44 and 42 seconds. You have reached Paraspora Skyways Limited. All of our public relations managers are currently helping other customers. Please hold, and an operator will be with you shortly to answer your questions about the evacuation. Your call is important to us.
Okay. Realistically, I knew we weren't going to make it, Ned and me. The humans made an effort for themselves, of course, brotherhood of man and all that. And it's funny, actually. When you think you've figured out who's in the club, who's not in the club, suddenly massive leaps and quantum computing come along and pull the rug out from under you. So we knew if they didn't have room, that they'd feel bad, but they'd leave us here on this rock just the same. We also knew they barely had room for themselves. But still, when the last ship went over, I felt sick, like it was finally finished. Then I thought of Ned, and how much he loved those damn lights, even though he knew what they meant. I thought I was over it, but the last one still hurt. Turns out there's a difference between knowing someone will leave you behind and actually watching their vapor trail.
Good evening. The current time is 23:48 and 06 seconds. Please continue to hold, and the first available public relations AI will begin your information uplink. Your call is important to us.
I first got the cough 6 months ago. It's scary, kind of a scraping in your chest like sand in your lungs. Then you get creaky and grindy and you go slower and slower. And then you're standing there in the street like a big, stupid asshole with nothing but your big, stupid asshole brain that just won't stop. Do me a favor, If anyone tries to give you that infomercial spiel about the wonders of anti-electron quantum computing, sock them in the mush for me. Ned was lucky. He was one of the stupid ones. Now, everybody had a theory about what caused RASP. Pollution, allergens, sand, rust maybe. Fact is, once the last ship left, it was like the leftovers just stopped caring. The humans knew we were doomed. They wouldn't have left us if we weren't.
Good morning. The current time is 01:22 and 34 seconds. Please continue to hold. Your call is important to us.
Now, I was never the romantic one. That was Ned's job. See, he's a Model 9. the dreamer of the family. I'm a Model 5, the thinker. But I've read on the links what Earth was like before the rock hit. It sounded lovely. I always wanted to see a tree, you see. Like a real tree, a live one, you know. Not the old man-made O2 converters. Hell, I'd even settle for some real moss or algae that's not made of oil. Or the sun. I bet the sun is really cool.
Good morning. The current time is 01:53 and 41 seconds. Please continue to hold. Your call is important to us.
Pretty soon after they detected the meteor, they knew they'd have to leave. You know the drill. First there's a bang, and it gets really dusty, and the organics get hungry, and they get cold. They were lucky the Model 5s figured out grav drives when we did, or they could have never accelerated to the necessary speeds for interstellar travel. Now, it's still going to take them a good century before they get someplace they can set up camp. But I think they'll do okay. I wish them well, I really do. I even let Ned handle their PR calls. You see, I'm a team player. Dr. Riley felt so guilty about all of this that she offered to smuggle me on board. But she didn't have room for Ned, so I had to turn her down. It was a long shot anyway, and it's not their fault they had to leave us behind. It's not their fault I'm still alive.
Good morning. The current time is 02:19 and 11 seconds. Please continue to hold. Your call is important to us.
It's the creakiness that got to me. Ferg's is still open, but it's not the same place anymore. You know, time was, you'd go through for a shine and you'd feel like a new man. Nowadays, we harvest river oil for lubricant, and it always has this grit that gets in your joints. Ned stopped getting tune-ups a long time ago. By that time, he was already misplacing things, forgetting things, glitching. Pretty soon, all he could remember was his last directive. You see, I still remember everything. I'd have put a gun in my mouth a long time ago if Ned hadn't needed me. Poor, stupid, sweet, lucky Ned.
Good morning. The current time is 02:49 and 13 seconds. Please continue to hold. Your call is important to us.
The humans used to know how to make everything work right, but now it's like the whole world is winding down, because, I mean, what's the point, right? Ned used to say maybe they'd come back for us someday. I'm not holding my breath. My brain whirred and clicked over, anti-electron banks in perfect sync, and I called the old hotline again. Ned's voice boomed in my head, and even though all he could say was the same old, outdated messages, he still sounded like that excitable kid who loved to watch the ships go over.
Good morning. The current time is 3:51 and 49 seconds. Please continue to hold. Your call is important to us.
It was evening when the last ship of humans left planet Earth. I was frozen behind in the alley behind Ferg's, half buried in acid snow when it passed over. It made this kind of thrumming bass you feel deep in your chassis, rattling your servos, and it was spitting out this huge, beautiful trail of fire so bright you can't look straight on at it. And for just a second, it lit the place up really bright, brighter than I'd ever seen before. Even at 1200 hours, when all the overlights cut out, Ned would have loved it. I bet that's what the sun looks like.
Good morning. The current time is 03:54 and 30 seconds. Please continue to hold. Your call is important to us.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to live in a perfect world where there were no problems, no worries? Kinda? You know, a true utopia? So here it is, A True Utopia by Avery Barker.
The ground is quiet. The cities that used to hustle have crumbled with gardens overgrown and suburbs rotted. They are mere ruins that are easy to glance over, covered in the wear and tear from thousands of years. The plants grow thick over old broken buildings, and dirt has buried these civilizations. They are the only signs of human presence left on Earth. Finally, the animals can roam freely, not disturbed by mankind's unjust rule. They thrive on the earth, living out Mother Nature's plans, the way things were supposed to be before humans took over. The forests are flourishing, and plant life has taken over everything. The coral reefs are able to live in peace once again without all the pollution that the humans have created. The air is clean and breathable. Global warming is a thing of the past. In the sky, though, we see large cloud-shaped objects. At closer glance, we realize that it's a city built in the sky. The city floats among the clouds in the sky. The metropolis thrives with happy faces filling every corner. Mankind is at its evolutionary peak. Adapted to the skies, humans have strong respiratory systems. Vitamin D is easy to come by, causing everybody to be happy. Everything is solar powered, including the cities themselves. People greet each other when they walk by. They've become open and honest and don't stare at their feet when they walk down it. Neighbors smile and wave at each other, not burdened by thoughts of war and crime. The children run through the streets not worrying about cars or shootings. Cars don't exist anymore. There's only one mode of transportation in this sky metropolis, and that's their flying pigs. The end.
In these uncertain times, it is always good to remind ourselves, hell, at least it ain't the zombie apocalypse, right? Our last story of the night is All You Can Eat by author Mark Anthony Smith. Bon appetit.
All You Can Eat by Mark Anthony Smith. The streets are quiet for a Saturday afternoon. There's lots of newspaper sheets blowing about in the wind and dust everywhere. It's foggy, too. There's few cars and no one seems to have an appetite for shopping anymore. John smiles at the cliche of the city looking like a ghost town. It is the first thought that has entered his head since worrying about meeting Cynthia. They met online. It's all the rage these days. Cynthia likes horror films, trips abroad, and is fed up with meeting psychos. John thinks the same. There's lots of fake profile pictures or people with too many hang-ups. He just wants an easy life, nothing too serious. Just a few laughs and someone to lend an ear on occasion. Cynthia isn't interested in material things. She likes eating out and a man with a good sense of humor. John is attracted to Cynthia's photo of her windsurfing somewhere in Malta with her blonde hair blowing over her face and a wide, cheeky smile. In contrast, she looks protective in her cream woolen jumper with the puppy picture. Cynthia likes that John reads and is educated with a biology degree. She thinks she can get him to try new things, but in reality, John is a creature of habit, though. He's not as outgoing as he suggested. He walks toward the Chinese buffet where they'd agreed to meet on their first date. Cynthia was a bit funny about eating in front of John so soon, but he managed to humor her. A three-legged dog hobbles past. There seems to be something wrong with its eyes. Its mouth is foaming and it keeps knocking into lampposts, litter bins, and a street sign as it approaches. The poor mutt is whimpering. John bends down to pet it. "Aw, come on, boy, watch where you're going." He scratches the dog's ear and recoils. It comes off in his hand. There's white maggots or worms writhing from the fresh wound. The dog doesn't feel pain. It limps over and licks John's hand. "Oh, fuck off. Get off me, you flea-ridden dirtbag." The dog cocks his head as the pupilless eyes stream. "Oh, fuck off, lassie. Go away." John runs to the Chinese. He's really aware of his appearance as he smooths his field jacket down like it's covered in hairs. The restaurant on George Street is busy. It's more run down than John recalls. It looks like the electricians have popped for a tea break mid-job. Some of the loose cables are sparking. The decor couldn't be more tasteless, too. The wallpaper from the 1960s is peeling, and there's a lot of dust covering the tables and lampshades. It's quite dark inside. John thinks it's an unusual ambiance. He looks anxiously for Cynthia. He spots her by the window. John pecks her on the cheek and offers his hand. Cynthia leans in. She has a lot of makeup on. Her floral dress has been ripped. "Did you bike here?" Cynthia looks puzzled. "I just thought your dress was caught in the chain." She laughs. "You are funny," she says, before muttering something under her breath. John thinks she looks older than he'd imagined. He wonders where all the staff is. Cynthia looks over his shoulder as she swings her legs in boredom. They're sat on swivel bar stools and she's decided she's uncomfortable. There's a man who's lost a lot of weight but hasn't shopped for clothes. She thinks his frame is peculiar as he's ravenous for the leg of what's probably lamb. "Where's all the staff?" John smiles. He was just thinking the same thing. They're probably on dinner break or something. She looks off. John feels hungry now. He notices how delicate Cynthia's bracelet and necklace is. Then he sees the bandages below her neckline. He's thinking about windsurfing in Malta. Cynthia looks at her watch, but it's missing. "Where's all the staff?" She asks this like it's a new observation. "Are you feeling okay, Cynthia?" She nods. Her neck is a little jerky as if she's trying to balance her head. John thinks that Cynthia doesn't think very much. He asks her if she's been here before. "Oh, yes. Lots of women like to meet me here." John guffaws. He cuts his laugh short. She's being deadly serious. "I see," he reflects after a quiet age. "Well, it's good that you're popular." He wants to go. John cuts her short with a finger on his pouting lips. He could pass as a librarian. "I think it's self-service," he adds. Cynthia looks surprised. She's bewildered. John leans in. He has an odd thought. He thinks that Cynthia has the shortest memory, like a goldfish. He gets up. "Let's get something to eat, shall we?" Cynthia gently nods. He gestures for her to go first. He sweeps his arm again. She laughs. John is impatient. She obviously doesn't do chivalry. She follows him to the buffet. There's lots of colorful fare on offer. The meats are covered in thick red sauce that must be sweet and sour. It's irregular and looks home-cooked rather than overly processed, square, and earlier frozen. She's looking a bit shifty. Maybe it's the ambiance. John starts to pile his plate up like there's a famine. He expects Cynthia to say, "You can always go back for more," or "You've got a healthy appetite, John," but she's silent. She hasn't got a plate. John pops his down as he fetches her one. Then he sees the axe embedded in the back of her skull. He reaches for it like a pesky fly. He isn't surprised by the new adornment. He grabs the wooden handle. She takes a fancy to his arm. She feasts as he pulls his severed limb away.
Well, there you go. Another trip to Planet Raconteur. On behalf of myself and our two fine Raconteurs, Papa Dave and Bobby Anthem, we would like to thank you for listening once again. All of the stories presented on Planet Raconteur are used by permission or are in the public domain. Check out the show notes for details on the authors, their websites, and their other releases. And if you like what we are doing, please subscribe and follow us on all of our social media platforms. The links will be found in those same show notes. Much love, and thank you again for visiting the Planet Raconteur.